can tax people.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what's that next Tuesday.
Missouri. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have electronic device, if you would please silence it.
Bob, I'm gonna leave mine on, because the hospital's supposed to be scheduling me for MRI. And
All right, we'll let it
it
slide this time. Roll call.
Road Commissioner Calhoun,
Present.
Drain Commissioner Christensen,
Present.
Road Commissioner Eckerly,
Here.
Chairman Joyce,
Here.
Road Commissioner Makowski is absent, Road Commissioner Popa.
Here.
Approval of agenda, late additions or deletions.
They're okay by me.
Look good to
I'll
me.
make a motion that the agenda be approved.
Do I have a second?
Support.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes, which we just kind of got. You want to take a second? Look over them?
I have one on page 3, Chairman, where it says communication items, it said none. We received 16 letters, and I think they're in the clerk's office, but we should say we received 16 letters pertaining to public comment.
Okay. Do you need a motion on that, Allison?
I will go ahead and add that in, and if you want to approve them now, that's the way that they'll be put out as your approval.
Need a motion, we might change the minutes.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm not voting because I wasn't here. That's
So-
the proper thing to do.
Sorry, I'm blank.
That's all right. You're fine. Okay, this is the first of our 2 public comments. Crickets. Okay. Communication items? None.
I did talk with Rusty. I'm going to be in front of the board on Tuesday, and we've got that proposal to them to accept the bid from his outfit, and I wanted him to give me as much as he could give me so that I could help the board feel good about moving forward with this. In my mind, it's our chance to get the fix in before the lake goes up again next year, which I'm pretty sure it's doing. And what he did is he went through, okay, I'll give you the best case scenario. When he gives the bid, of course, he's got a little bit in there, figuring something's gonna take me longer. So he went through it and figured the best case scenario, and in that scenario, it's $27,560. So I've got a document that I can show the board. But, you know, there again, I'm just trying to help the county board feel good about moving forward with the fix.
What was that number again?
27,560.
$27,560.
That's his revised?
It's not a revised, no.
Oh, that's hopeful.
No, this is just hope. Yeah, it just, if
We hope everything.
everything goes really smoothly, it could be as low as, which is the way it went through. It's not to exceed the 38 number, 38,330, but if it came in less, we would be charged less.
I see.
So that's the way it went through.
So And you're bringing this under communications because it's addressed to you or to the board? Or-
I'm bringing it in communication just to let you know what I'm gonna be saying on Tuesday.
Perfect.
You know, I'm, you know, I asked him to get me something, and rather than going rogue and just bringing something up without you guys knowing it, I wanted you to know what I was doing, so.
Perfect, thank you, Steve. New business, review dam history packet and discuss special assessment district budget.
I can take that lead, because this is the stuff we gave everybody out as a packet to read, and we didn't have time to cover it last week. The historical chronology, I don't think there's any need for us to go through that unless you guys, if someone have a question on it.
I'll add a DEQ in there. When I came on board as the drain commissioner, the first thing that was on the top of my desk was I was instructed by the DEQ to fix my dam. And that had been laying on my predecessor's desk for at least a year and a half.
So you're saying we should add something?
We might, I'm just saying, you know, we can do that later.
Sure.
But that's what started me down the trail
DEQ
of
notice?
fixing the dam.
I'll put that, and we'll correct it when I get with this on there. Steve.
And that's where all of the activity on fixing the dam came from, was from that letter.
Yeah. All right. Page 2. I included this because there's been a lot of talk, if you go to page 2, there's been a lot of talk about this piston. And will it work and won't it work? Because we're going to be getting into that on the budget. And this thing was designed, I thought, with everything to go through the crest gate fully down. Well, it turns out the crest gate has to be fully down, and the auxiliary spillway stop logs have to be removed. And then it'll pass a 200-year flood. That's only information only in case it ever pops up again. Page 3. Here he talks about the seals, and this is one reason we put this in the budget. In order for us to maintain that dam, the seals would eventually have to be replaced, and to accomplish that, we've got to put in a dewatering mechanism. And this was discussed prior to us building the dam, and I'll get back with that later. So here he mentioned that.
Who is he?
This was this Friedel of Gerace. Gerace was the one that built the dam.
Okay.
But this page, I think, came from Thomas's report, didn't it?
No, this is out of our minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, these
Never
are all
mind.
minutes.
Now, the next page is from Thomas's report.
Page, what number?
Number 4.
Oh, okay, that's, okay.
Here again, he said the crest gate and the auxiliary spillway are more than sufficient to pass a 200-year flood. And this is the guy that designed the dam. And he said also the stop logs must be removed. Now, this is the first time we mention about the gate. Tom designed this Tom Perholder, that's at the bottom of the page, said, Jerry, that gate can be operated with one piston. We haven't tried it, but he said it was designed that way.
We might have to drop the logs off out of this, you know, the
It
the
might
manual
be-
stop logs would probably have to be removed to operate the crest gate with one cylinder.
And there's some tests that can be done that we all know of, I think.
It was interesting to hear the gentleman at the meeting last speak. I know that it was designed with redundancy so that, you know, we can operate it with one piston in case we needed to repair a piston. And what that gentleman brought up was a discussion about how it was plumbed in. And he said if we were to try to do that, we'd have trouble the way it's plumbed. So, in the fix that we ever have to do, I think we need to take a peek at the plumbing there so that those two systems, it can run with one cylinder and one pump. Now we've got, I think, Jerry, right, only one reservoir for the oil, but somehow we have to separate the pumps with the plumbing so that if one pump went out, we could still operate the one piston with the one pump. I think that's what he was saying, but we just need to flesh that out a little bit, and that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in.
Steve is talking about this fellow's name who's Don Coppins.
Coppins, yeah.
And when we built this dam, I gave Coppins a copy of all those hydraulics. He changed a few things, and Tom agreed with him. It had to do with bypassing and shut-offs and whether we were gonna blow something. But we'll be he's willing to help us out on this, and Jerry's met him now once or twice. This guy might come up with a way of helping us test this thing. I guess that's enough on that page. Page 5. Now we're back to this, how to drain this thing. And at the top of the page, it talks about metal uprights. And he gave us a procedure on how to do this. So we bought the metal uprights, but we never put them in place and we never tried it. And so 4 paragraphs down, he says, in order to do this, Friedel told us that we got dive work to do, and whenever we replace the seals, we're going to have to contract this out. In this case, we're talking about the seals of a dam to dewater it. And we then made a motion, and we ended up buying these brackets. Jerry has them stored. They gave us a procedure how to do it, but we never put them in, we never tested it. And we've got a folder on that on what to do, and Jerry probably has it too. That means we got to dive under the water, we got to take some angle iron, we got to hold it up against the wall, put some red heads all underwater. We then put these brackets in place, we then cut boards and put them in there, and then we laid visqueen or plastic over it in sandbags, and then let the water out. He said it would take about 4 days to do that, and this was 16 years ago. So we're going to be coming to that when it comes time for a budget, because we need to do that. Then this engineer, Tom Cahota, again, this is out of our minutes.
Page 6?
6.
I'm sorry, page 6, yeah. He talked about that there will be a structure in front of the gate that can be closed so that the dam can be repaired. Well, that never happened. We built the thing, we got parts of it, but I argued when I was on that thing, let's get the thing done now, and I was overruled, so all we got is the parts for it. In the middle of the page, he talks again that he thinks, well, he designed it so that they can act independently of each other and are 2 times the size for normal operation. Don said he thinks one of the seals are already leaking. Didn't he say that, Jerry? That one pressure is lower than the other or something?
Well, the one transducer pin is not sending a signal.
Well,
That's been tested already electronically, and it's not working. That's why I got a different reason. Already had those tested, so one works, one doesn't. It's not sending a signal.
okay. And that's a little bit about the dam. On page 7, keep in mind this is 15 years ago now. When we went through the assessment, here's where we came up with the 3 different classifications, which some members of this authority might not have known, that we had 3 different groups. We assessed everybody 50/50, but it was 100% if you lived there, 80% if you lived across the road, and 10% if it was swamp. That went through and it was approved by the executive committee, and that's how the dam, or that's how the assessment went out. So we'll be doing that again when it comes time to put the budget together and recommend to the board how to go about doing it. Now that bottom paragraph is important. I put this in the budget. When the county commissioners go out now, and we're gonna ask them to start with it, in '82, they compensated each one of the assessors in the townships at a rate of $3 per parcel, because each township is gonna have to say, okay, this lot here, it's owned by John Popa, and he's got 100 feet. That's the next lot. When we did it in 2004, we gave them $5 per parcel. And there's roughly 1,200 parcels. That's how I came up with the figure in the budget. But this is my thoughts only, so when it comes time for the budget, we as an authority here will have to recommend to the board how much we want to compensate them, the assessors in each township.
John, if there's not a, if we don't assess all the property owners, we could save that money, couldn't we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll vote on whether we assess them all or we don't assess them all. There are people that don't want to get assessed at all.
Yeah, I know some of them.
Yeah. So, and some of them spoke at the meeting and some of them sent written things in. The next page, a lot of questions come up. Is there any, this is page 8. The state laws say that whoever fronts the lake is subject to assessment, and there are no exceptions. Meaning the DNR, churches, there's just no exception. Whoever owns frontage on it are going to be assessed. And that isn't our rule. That comes down from the courts. So when we held a public hearing, I think, Steve, there was like 40 or 50 people came in, remember?
You know, I wasn't there.
Oh,
I can't remember. Lee didn't seem to think it was too bad.
no, it went through real good, but we had to listen to all 40 people.
Right, right.
Some we granted, some of them said, hey, this is my lot and I don't even live there, or it's all woods, it's fine.
Loose ends got tied up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was only like 5 variances, and I got all those minutes. Next page is 9. We have to put out a notice if we're gonna have our special assessment, and it's gonna come in front of this authority. That's not gonna happen within a while, but this is just how it went out last time, if you have to use it. Page 10 is the letter then that Lee wrote, in this case to Pam Zentek, how the dam authority came up with that, and says where the tab run on all these properties that are on file and all that. So this is just history. And that's where he mentioned $5, that very first sentence, $5 per parcel. We'll have to determine what we come up with. The next page, which is page 11. Pretty good.
Just keep going.
This is what we started in 2005, and we finished it 3 years later when we built the dam, of what the estimate was going to be and what the actual cost would be. And that's that story. So, with those, and we're not going to go through each one, but we will when it comes time, when I set up this next budget. I say me because I took each one of them. What about this? What did the training cost? What did this cost? What did utilities cost? What does this? What does that? And so I made up a new budget, and I used this thing. Page 12 is information only, and I think I gave this to the commissioners, that This is the court order that sets the lake level, and it's the bottom 4 lines that this was set up for the purpose of maintaining and promoting the public health, welfare, and safety of the natural resources of the county and state. That is the big thing. And to preserve the property values around the lake. So there was 2 things for that. One was to do the county, one was to do the lake. So there are people saying that the county doesn't want to pay a darn thing. And you're saying, wait a minute, the court order says you will. They want to put it all on the property owners. There's some property owners that says they don't want to pay anything. But this is the order that the county, and none of the county commissioners were here except Melinda 16 years ago. So this is saying
How do
county.
you read that and say that it says that every taxpayer has to pay?
It didn't say every taxpayer, it just says the county has to do this to promote the health and safety and welfare they own it, of the state and the riparians. How they go about doing it is the county commissioners will have to come up with it, not us.
Thank you. I didn't want you to pre-assume something there.
Okay, I'll go through this now one at a time. So when I set up the budget, this is what, out of all this stuff, we've been working on this about a month, came up of what is our repairs and what is our needs. Well, the first one is obvious. We got water coming into the dam. We mentioned at our last meeting here that people are saying, well, why are we repairing something that was built wrong? If we would have caught this one, that would have been an original budget. So it isn't like we're going back and just doing back steps on it. We need to install a sump, and we still think we can get it done this fall. We also know about the Myosha needs for the lockouts. And if those remember how the engineer came, we also have Myosha needs for the greasing of the pinions, doing it remotely instead of going outside. Those have been brought to our attention. Jerry brought it. Jerry also said that control room leaks. That's the 4th item down. And he went and got some bids on it. We should fix that. We also there's a lot of work to do on these pistons, solenoids, pumps, and overhauling. When I looked at the specs on it, I underlined there, all that rubber stuff said it had a 5-year life. It said a 1-year guarantee with a 5-year life. And they're already 14 years old. So there's going to be money in the budget, and we should chew on that of how we want to go about doing these. The next item, I gave you some history on the fabricating and testing of dewatering structure. We gotta go out for bids and do that sometimes in the next couple of years. We gotta dewater this. There's some minor tune-ups to do on these lake level sensors and getting rid of phone connections. The phone bill is, I don't know, how much is it, Jerry? 40 a month per unit or something, or?
Something like
Is it beneficial, Jerry,
that. The sensor,
have the phone service?
the phone service for the dam.
There's 2 things. These are the phone service to the sensors, and if Cal repairs these and upgrades these sensors, this phone service will go away.
For those sensors.
The sensors.
Yeah, not the landline, those are the.
Yeah, the landline has to still stay. I also included 10 years of yearly maintenance and utilities. Jerry's been keeping pretty good track with that, and we're running anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 a year. And after we had 60 grand left, 160 grand, 60, 160, I can't remember. But we used all that money up over the last 14 years. And they never wanted to put any money in it. Now, we all heard some of this stuff about an assessment. So we're looking into an assessment, a one-time assessment. The district's already set up. It's set up from the dam all the way to the Cedar Bridge. The district was set up by front footage. It was then the Board of Commissioners approved the dam authority to do this 180 and 10. Nothing is exempt. Church, schools, and conservative, everybody has to pay. And there's been 2 precedents set already where the county pays 50%. Now, the last sentence there is we still don't have those inspection results, do we, Steve?
We do not.
So we don't know if anything has to be done.
I know that they've been here.
Yep.
The underwater was done, and nothing, at least verbally from Sean, from Spicer, nothing earth-shattering with the underwater inspection. So that's going to be included in their inspection, and theirs was more the physical nature of how the dam is holding up and whatnot.
With that in mind, we're not going to go back and look, but if you look at that history, a lot of this started because of some inspections. And then we found out this wasn't good, it was undercut, it was hollow underneath, and then the letter ended up on Steve's desk. So a lot of these dam repairs and putting a new dam was a result of some of these inspections. And we've had inspections since then, it was just some minor stuff. Prohoda has a real good report on one of those inspections. Which now comes to page 14. I can buzz through this, but item 1, I took some of that from Pat Machin's stuff, that we put braces in and do some overhauls and stuff. We might run into about $35,000 just in engineering. This dewatering structure is designed, but I don't think any one of us is going to do anything until we get an engineer to draft it all up, draw out a bid, go out for bids. That might be light, and I'm putting an asterisk there because I think we have to sit down with someone like Pat if we all agree what engineer we want.
When Rusty designed that, it was designed by Rusty Friedel, who did who made the only bid for the fix.
Yeah.
And he worked for Gerace at the time. He's now working for an outfit called Fisher Contracting, and for him it was a step up. He designed the dewatering, and it's a rough sketch type design. And then he presented that to Spicer Engineering, and Spicer Engineering gave it the thumbs up.
And built it.
So,
Built it.
so it was looked at by an engineering firm. We don't have a professional engineering drawing of the dewatering setup. I'm not so sure that we actually need that or not. As we go through this, I'm thinking if, I'm just thinking that 35 might be, tall, but I'm not positive. And as we go through this, and we look at the numbers John put together, by the way, John, thanks for doing this. I mean, it's a lot of research, and he's got great records. But we should probably be a little tall going in when we're making the budget, rather than be skinny on something and then have to kind of do a redo. It'd be better to be a little tall. The money that is generated will be similar in the same fund that the money that was generated for the dam fix. Same fund.
Yeah, same number.
Same number and everything. And when we were all done with the dam, we had that extra money in there. And that's the money that we've been drawing from to do the maintenance and any other things that needed to be done at the dam. So that, if we're a little tall and we have the money in that account, what that'll mean is that we'll be able to stretch it maybe a little farther down the line before we have to revisit. This thing is something that's going to require some maintenance over time. It's just like your house, it's just like this building. It was over-designed. Everything is twice or more heavier, stouter than it needed to be per se. It was built with that in mind, that it's going to be a really long-lived structure. So we've got a good thing to work with, and anyway, I think the 35, I'm guessing we won't need quite that, but I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing out some discussion.
On that same note, I took that 35 though and included,
Something, I hope you don't use the jail and the courthouse as an example, because it sure hasn't worked out that way.
It does need work. That was the only reason I mentioned that. The dam will need work. We're gonna have to do the seals.
It's like a car, wear items.
You
It has
know,
wear items.
one that, John, do you have the paint on there?
No.
the gate paint?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Where?
it's in the next one.
Yeah.
And John found this and pointed it out. John was arguing for a galvanized treatment of the crest gate, and then, when we went through with it, it didn't get the galvanized material, we got a special paint on steel, and that has a 20-year life. So, and we're out 14, so I was thinking if we could go ahead and Rusty's actually here, have him take a peek at it while he's here. And, you know, that might be the first thing we have to de-water for, is to paint that, crest gate, but maybe not, but that's, you know, that's neither here nor there, it's just kind of more discussion, I guess.
On that line, Steve, though, keep in mind, this is only engineering. Safety brace engineering hasn't even been started yet. Pat gave us an idea of.
Oh, I'm sorry,
See?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
overhauls of all these pistons, Jerry's working on it, but he's got the parts. There was a couple $1,000s in parts for each piston, but then we'd have to find someone to go down there, lift it out, haul it to Grand Rapids, take it all apart, put them in. And who's gonna do the engineering for that, to go out for bids, I don't know. And then for dewatering, and I think Rusty can help us on that. But I might even be a little bit shy on that 35. Okay, it comes to the construction. Then Pat gave some pretty good estimates of what it would take to fabricate these braces. He thought it would cost about 15. There's a lot of labor in putting them in. He figured, and I figured, I just put 25 grand.
Just a second, you got 15,000 for safety. I thought you said we had those in stock.
No, the parts we have in stock are the dewatering one, which is the third item down.
$40,000 we have?
Well, that's John, if I can interject a little bit, that line that includes the dewatering, you have 40,000 on that.
Right.
That would be the installation of it
Yep.
and the dewatering of it
Yep.
and to take it back down.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing.
It's $1,000 an hour, and Rusty figured 4 days, and I made it 5.
So we do have the vertical posts for the dewatering system.
Yep.
Because those were a specialty item.
Yep.
And we figured that we best have those on hand if we do need to dewater. We could hire an underwater crew, they could take those pieces, and the design is in-house, and 1 week later, we'd have it up. So we're ready to do it at this point in time.
And
Does
what-
it need to be looked at a little more closely? Yeah, probably. But when we set this up, we felt we were ready to dewater if we had to.
Well, there's no one here on the board that can write a contract and say how we want this thing dewatered. Do we want to use 10 mil stuff? Do we want to use visqueen? Do we want to use rubber? I don't, his procedure was so thin, but he thought it would take 4 days, and we need to just go out for bids again and just see what it is and have somebody like Rusty draw up the whole thing. That's why I included dewatering, structure, and engineering.
How long ago did he look at that and think that it would only take 4 days to dewater?
That's when we built the dam, and I was reading that to you.
Oh, 06?
16 years ago.
So, I mean, a lot's changed
Well,
in 16 years. I
I
mean, just
know.
look at the groundwater. So, I mean, we might be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yep.
I mean, dewatering's a huge thing. I mean,
Well, right now, I don't think.
you could have 8
So-
days.
So you're saying that we should take a close look at it?
Yeah, because I think that 40,000, especially with 16 years, and the way that the groundwater has fluctuated up, I don't think it's gonna be anywhere close to 4 days.
And that's part of our homework, Bob, is that we would maybe write a short contract for Rusty. And I think Chet can prove anything under, what, $2,000 or something. See, Rusty, could you take this home and look at it and give us what you think is a scope for it, so we can put a budget number in there?
I just don't wanna put the cart before the horse, you know? I mean, if we
As
need
far
to
as
have
putting a
someone-
number on it, that might be the wrong number.
Exactly.
Right.
A lot
So-
of this could have changed too,
so let's-
because it's been 16 years.
Yeah, let's put a big fat star next to that line item, dewatering.
Got a bunch of them.
Because we're gonna have to revisit that to get a number that we feel better about, I guess.
Once it's dewatered, item number 4 is clean that gate then and inspect it. We would probably power wash it, but again, we would need some engineering, line 1, of what are we gonna do about dewatering this. Someone's gonna have to write the specs of what you want. You want it blasted with walnut, all kinds of stuff. If you really wanna look at that paint, and I'm not a paint guy, but I know who is, and that's Rusty.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess my question is, all these numbers that we have listed out
Are 16 years old.
are 16 years old.
I just made them.
So
Well-
are you just putting like, are you just adding
I started something.
a little bit of fluff? I mean, that's what I
think-
want to know.
Yeah, I think, John, you can talk to this, but I think what John did is, he set this sheet up and put his best guess on the numbers to get us to a discussion point.
Which,
So-
and I appreciate
so-
that.
So none of these numbers, I don't think.
But I think we're further ahead versus talking about something that we could be so far out of bounds on,
This gives us a good starting point.
is to have Rusty come in or whatever, find out what it's going to cost to get actual analysis and data,
Yep,
period.
I agree with you.
I
So
got
we
it.
have something,
I agree, I jotted down, for Rusty, you know, to weigh in on that paint on the crest gate. I have a hunch when he's here, he's gonna be able to do an inspection of sorts. He could probably have Jerry pull the dam all the way up and get close enough, and I don't know, but that's a guess, but I'm thinking he can. And then the whole dewatering question can be posed to him too. And we can kind of maybe hit 2 birds with 1 stone, if we get Rusty here doing that project.
could we, I mean, as far as proceeding forward, couldn't we talk with Rusty,
We are.
but have him give us maybe a scope of work and what we're gonna have into him coming up and just giving us actual figures?
I think that's a good idea, and John and I can probably put our heads together so we can, not both of us be bugging them all the time, but I think what we can do is get an idea where we're headed and get some idea of cost and figure out a
I mean-
direction, and then we bring that back to this group.
Even if he took this list and he went with Jerry to the dam and went through it, you know, line by line, and then just put actual figures to that, and then we can talk about how we're gonna proceed forward. But right now, we're just kind of shooting in the dark.
Well, we've got
That's what I
those
thought so.
two,
Right.
we've got those 2 for Rusty, and the safety brace installation and the grease system, those are from an engineer. So those are pretty solid. And I think as we go down the list, we'll hit either solid numbers or we'll hit ones that need to be worked on. And as it is now, I've got a couple started to work on. Why don't we just continue down the list and we'll get going.
5 minutes ago, I mentioned, can we ask Ben Rusty about it, and can we give him authorization, maybe pay him so much and say, I'd like you to look at this.
Well, I think it's probably one step at a time. We don't know
Okay.
what he can or can't do for what amount of money. We gotta kind of figure that out first, and then once we get that idea, we can run it by Chet, and then we'll have to convene as a
This is just a
board
start.
again
Oh, yeah.
to vote on a direction. So we can't be out there operating without this group's knowledge and, basically permission and vote to do it, in my mind.
Are you satisfied with that engineering firm?
Pat Machin, that we have these numbers from?
Yeah,
I am. I went, I've talked to two people. I talked to Rusty, who works with Fisher, and I talked with Sean Middleton, that works for Spicer. And these are big outfits that work on dams, and not too many people do. And they both were very familiar with Pat Machin, and they have worked with him. So, I felt a lot better about Pat Machin and his outfit, being that these two guys are talking about him and have worked with him and had no problem. So, my confidence level is good at this point.
well, sometimes when they're well-known, it's not because of the goodness.
Right, right. So that's why I checked that out.
Like I say, that's,
Yep.
He gave us a pretty good background on what he does, and one of the guys that worked for him actually inspects the dam of ours. I added per Pat, he said the construction of that grease system would be about $5,000, but we gotta go over all that with Pat and all that with Rusty. So that's like some numbers that we gotta tighten up. If anybody can think of anything else, like Jerry, if there's stuff we gotta do, we'll have it in there. The next one, item 3, was overhaul these pistons and hydraulics. I could work with Jerry and this hydraulics guy. He can maybe give us an idea. We've got some numbers on parts, but he also recommends backup power. I'm not sure. There's a lot of work to do there because you get him down in that room and he rattles on like he drank about 10 cups of coffee.
One thing that.
He's very knowledgeable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one thing
Extremely
that,
knowledgeable.
I've met him many times.
yeah, one thing that I'm kind of bumping into as a farmer type, you know, when on the farm, I've got a lot of hydraulics out there. And when I work on the hydraulics on the farm is when they quit working and there's a problem. And then, but with regard to the dam and these hydraulic systems, what the profession is doing, the consumer's power type outfits, they look at these systems as having a set life, and they look at those rubber parts, those O-rings and whatnot, and they are only guaranteed for X, and then the lifetime is X. And once they get to the lifetime, they have a whole system where they go in and they're constantly overhauling, not that there's anything wrong, but the parts inside have reached their lifespan. So rather than have a situation where they have a failure with something like a dam, they go ahead and do the preventative maintenance. And I hadn't really thought about it a lot until now, and it makes a lot of sense to me. And it's not cheap, but I'm thinking that as we go through time here, we really should talk about it and figure out a system. And it does make sense, in my mind.
The other stuff there on number 5,
What's the guy's name again, John? I'm gonna star number 3 and we can talk with that guy and,
Is it John Compton or?
on the bottom of page 2 of our minutes, Don Coppins. I've met with him more than once, and this last time I met with Jerry and him, was about a month ago. And that's when I said, wow, there's a lot of stuff here that we could be doing. And could we put backup power? I think now it says we bring one of the road commission trucks in there and stuff. And Jerry has some good ideas, so it's gonna be a 3-way thing, and to see if what we gotta do. And Jerry's just handing out, this latest one is,
That's the information you asked for, the parts for that hydraulic pump system.
that was the one you sent me,
That's the company that built what we have.
and you were waiting for one more thing of what it would
They
take.
talked to him about, we talked about packing and whatnot for the ram and this cylinder. And we said those, you have one redundant system where one will handle the dam, you pull the other one off, you know, take it down and bring it to the workbench, so to speak. Yeah, there's not much to them, as you said, John.
No.
You know, you guys, everyone here knows, but it's just a matter of physical labor and just pulling apart. And for a new one, you're talking $7,000 there. With packing stuff, you said it'd be hard to give you a number on specifics of the makeup. When you tear into it, there isn't a whole lot there, so, for the hydraulic part. But for the hydraulic control system, that's all itemized, about $4,000 to pull out what's there and set in a new one. That's a lead time that they gave you.
And Don was there, and then Jerry went and followed up on it. We got all these valves, servo valves, this clicks, that clicks, they all got rubber parts, and we could take this one and take it and overhaul it. And Jerry looked in there, we can buy that whole unit on top that's got all the valves, all the new parts and everything. I think it was a couple
The
grand.
company that built it.
Yeah.
can-
Take that other one off,
You're looking at.
throw it out and put a whole new servo thing and everything on there. And I think that's what that was. So we got work to do on that one. I threw every once in a while, if we need a lawyer for something, we used a little bit last time. I threw in $5,000, took it off the other stuff is all the mailings. Now that special assessment charges, 9? Wait a minute.
Dam inspections, 9.
5, special assessment charges. The township, we paid them $5 last time, and it came to $7,000. I threw in 9 because we might, I think we should give them a couple bucks more than what we did 17 years ago, that's all. These numbers go to each one of the budget items. So we could chew over all those, but again, you guys should take these home and look at them and come back and with your ideas. Repair and maintenance. That number 6 is, we're running 8 to 10 a year now, and if we got a 10-year supply in there, that's $120,000 that Jerry can use for oil and seals and mops and parts and heat. I put utilities in there.
Back that up just a little bit there.
Okay.
You're buying them, you're saying 120,000 for 10 years, or 120,000 up front?
10 years.
10 to
grand.
8
It's 120 up front and it'll last 10 years.
It'll last 10 years. It'll be a one-time assessment of 120, and it sits there in that kitty, and every time Jerry's got to spend something. It was like this last time, Tom, we had 60 grand left over, and Jerry had it spent in about 8 years or something, I don't know. So I took what the budget was. I asked the commissioners this once before, about 4 years ago. I said, you guys got to start throwing 10 grand a year in there. And they said, no, not until all the money's gone. Well, it's gone. And this time, I shouldn't say this time, we should think about putting 120 in there. Utilities, electronic cabinet. The electronics went out on this thing after it was about 5 years old. And the guy that built it lived down in Holland or St. Joe or something. And it cost Jerry a fortune every time to bring them up here.
That was, down,
And-
controls.
And finally, they got to the point where they're obsolete. Now, we were very fortunate here a couple of years ago that we got a guy on the lake who's into this. He gave us the technician and all the parts. I think he gave us the parts too, didn't he? And we got a nice state-of-the-art thing. All Jerry has to do is call him, so it's free. However, that guy might quit on us someday, and I'm thinking that if parts go to hell, it wouldn't hurt to put 15. Now, we might talk to this guy, Jerry, and say, you know, when are we gonna have to replace this? And if he decides to retire,
So this is the inside,
this is the inside control cabinet,
it's the inside, it's not the physical cabinet itself.
you know?
It's,
We got a real good deal out of this guy that's doing it. It's the same guy that's taking care of Ken Dixie up there at Petoskey.
what it is it's, actually it's a computer
Yep,
system
yep.
that's housed in a cabinet that's sealed, and we control, when we keep the water out of the room, we control the humidity and the heat. So this electronic computer system and electronics that go with it, we're attempting to make an environment that will enable it to last as long as it can. It's apparently not too dissimilar from the hardware, software that we use every day in our businesses that goes a certain length of time and then it needs to be replaced either because of the software or because of the hardware. So that's the number that John's putting in there. It's for this internal stuff. It's not the physical cabinet itself.
I could be wrong, but we'll get with this guy and I'll get with Jerry. And so sometime in the next couple of months, we can put a number here. One thing about this is this guy can be up in Petoskey and he can call this thing up on his internet and adjust that stuff with these new things he gave us.
That's with the money that you spent for Verizon,
Yes.
and also cameras, we have cameras, we just have to
And
install those.
when we went in front of the board, we told them, this is that Verizon money that we want to put a line in here, and this guy can call, and this stuff now runs like a clock.
What's his name?
Chris Hayes is his name, it's from Pescador, is the company, I don't know the gentleman's name that owns it, but he lives on the lake, and I don't know his name, I can't.
Yeah, he lives on Lakeview Road.
The
I
guy
got
that
his
works
name.
for him, they put all this stuff in free.
Yeah.
What was the name of it again? Pescador?
Pescador.
That's the company?
That's the company's name.
The guy that owns the company, Chris Hayes is the technician, Rick and Laurel Howard is the guy that owns the business. And that guy, I went and saw him and he said, I'll donate it all to you. We wrote a letter of thanks and all that kind of stuff.
Howell?
Howard.
Howard.
And he's still willing to help us.
I'm gonna interrupt right now. I'm gonna have to leave in 5 minutes. I think Bob's probably in the same category. We still have some more pages, and I think what it's saying to me is that,
I'm done with the
gonna-
budget.
We're gonna have to, probably have another meeting to finish the pages and then come back and revisit the budget again. I think I've got some marching orders with Rusty, to broach the gate and dewatering, so that'll be my marching orders. I think at this point, if Jerry and John could get in touch with the computer guy and try to get a handle on what that would be to make sure that number is a good one. So we can bring some more information back. Quite possibly Jerry and John and Don Compton can meet again and take good notes and get some strategy as to where we're going. And when you're talking to them, please talk to them about the routing of the oil. We want to be able to run one pump and one cylinder. So maybe we can get an idea if that number's a good one. But I think we should set another meeting date at this point in time. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of saying this, but I'm going to have to leave.
Can we set a date though until we know if we get this information?
Well, the most important thing that we're doing is the flood wall. And that's already in the works. We'll be presenting that to the county board on Tuesday. So in my mind, that's number one. The rest of this stuff is important and we need to get going on it. It doesn't have to be done tomorrow. So, let's just take a look at the calendar real quick. We're into November.
We should do it like in December, after deer hunting and Thanksgiving.
Next meeting, I think Thursday looks like a good,
The 5th?
that's Parks and Rec. It'll be here, and it won't be us. So I know what's gonna happen in this room at that time, it's the Parks and Rec meeting. So it would have to be the 12th, is 12th?
3:45 or later, yep.
Yeah, let's do 3:45 on the 12th. And we have some marching orders, we'll firm up some numbers.
So we're looking at
That's all I'm saying, but
23.
Say it again?
23 to 25,000, do that wall, you said.
say it again, Jerry.
23 to 25, do that wall.
We don't know.
The bid, the number that they're looking at is 30,
30 some, but you,
38,333, not to exceed. 38,333, and that's what the County Board of Commissioners is gonna be okaying.
but he said we may be able to come in at,
He said if everything goes hunky-dory, it could be as low as 27,560, but everything has to go hunky-dory. So, that's just letting the county board know that it could go really good and be a little less. And I am hoping that'll help them feel better about letting that move forward.
I think we should, before we set that date in stone, I don't know about anybody else, but, excuse me, they better start checking their calendar to see if they're available.
Well, let's say it,
And we can get back to,
let's put it won't be in stone, but it's penciled in, and we'll get the room, will be ready to go, and you can go check your calendars and then let Bob know if you can't come.
okay,
And the
Well,
chair can take care of the meeting and the rooms.
I think what he's saying though is, are we gonna have the information that we wanna discuss? Are you gonna have the information
Or are we
back
gonna
from
be here
Rusty? I
again?
mean, are we just spinning our wheels, so?
Well, we have several pages to get through,
Why don't we pencil it in
and
tentatively?
if we do a 3:45 to 5, I think we have all kinds of material to use that time very constructively, with as much information as we have back at that point. I think it's important for us to keep meeting, because if we are gonna move forward with the special assessment, that's quite a process to get the ball rolling on, and they're gonna need a budget to work with. So it's kind of our job, and if we let it go into what happens when we get rolling into the field season, all of us get real busy. So I think it behooves us to have that meeting date and have that meeting.
I brought this so that you guys could take your first peek at it. I'm still requesting that you guys go home and chew the heck out of this stuff. I mean, this is my crack at it. I want you to ask every question there is this light? Who'd you talk to?
well, the only thing I'm questioning is, on that one statement, it was $1,000 an hour. Was that 16 years ago?
Oh, it's
Based
about
on
what things
16.
are running now.
If that's based on 16 years, it's gonna be a lot more than that.
Dewatering it's stupid expensive. I mean, it's unbelievably expensive.
My look at that, Jim, was usually, just like they're doing this thing, it's a three-man crew. It's a foreman with a couple workers, and in this case, a diver. And you start paying $150 an hour for three guys. I'd come up with,
Yeah, but is that $150 realistic now?
well, then we should look real hard at it. When
What?
Rusty said he said it was gonna take 4 days. We should ask our engineer, Pat, and say, Pat, how do you come up? You came up here 3 months ago with what you thought things would cost. So really true that next page is the supporting stuff.
Yeah, I've been looking through it, and the question I have on it, like this manpower needs for the dam and lake level.
That's a biggie.
We sat and talked to Chet, Tom and I did. And there's no discussion with the county board of having a part-time person at all.
Nope, not yet.
Well, they're not even, it's not even on the radar.
I didn't even put it in the budget.
Okay, but I see it's here.
I see it's there because the dam authority really needs to look hard at that, and if we think we need someone to help Jerry run this dam, keep track of stuff,
Well, part of what's going on is, you know,
that they ought to know about it, that's all.
we're gonna have the next generation in, and the responsibilities that Jerry's doing, do they rest with his position? Or is there another position that needs to be made? Or is there a part-time, you know, I mean, that whole discussion about, and I'm fine, Jerry's doing a good job, Jerry's replacement will do a good job, I mean, that could all stay the same, but this would be the time to chat about it, and say, okay, is this going the way we want it? How do we make sure that going into the future, this is gonna happen and happen the right way? I think that's what John's getting at with that page.
Oh, absolutely.
This is down the road.
Yeah.
It might be a year or two, it's definitely not in next year's budget.
Yeah.
And you gotta tell this board that says, hey, we've got this stuff going.
But I think that my only concern is that if you're going in front of the board, if you're gonna really make a case for a budget item, you gotta have factual numbers.
Well, yeah.
You have to have everything listed out, so, I mean, versus going forward to go backwards, I'd rather just go forward and keep going forward.
Yeah.
So to have someone come in and look at things that we're talking about doing and put in paper to pen, that is the actual number. Here's what it is right now for 2019. Obviously, it's not gonna happen in 2020, but this is what it was in 19. So they have an idea that if they added inflation to it for the 21 or whatever, it would be, you know.
To make sure the numbers
Exactly.
we're pitching for are good numbers.
Exactly.
I agree.
And look hard at what it was before and how I put some of that stuff together now, and then the excuse that was behind it. And
And
boy,
I
chew
get
it up
that.
and dig it up all you want. You gotta have a start. You gotta think about it.
I apologize.
No problem. We'll chat. We'll chat.
Well,
It's moving. Okay. Tom hit it. So that's it for the review today on the history packet. We're to our second public comment. Public comment. Hearing none. Authority member comments. Greg?
Nothing.
Jim?
No, I mean, the other thing we talk about, getting this engineer, we better find out what that's gonna cost us. They don't do it usually out of the goodness of their heart. We're putting a lot on, well, we'll get this guy to give us figures. How much is it gonna cost us to get this guy to give us figures? You
I
know?
put $35,000 for engineering.
Yeah, but that's gotta be approved, so we can get this guy here.
Yeah, we gotta have factual numbers.
We
That's-
don't
that's what I
have
was-
35, unless you have 35,000 in your pocket, I don't. So, we gotta get that figured to go to the board, to get the money, to get the engineer.
Well, it sounds to me like we're talking two engineering companies. Is that correct?
Kind of what I heard.
How's that?
There might be three,
That's
there
what I
might be four.
heard.
We've got a control engineer we gotta look at, we've got a
Well,
hydraulics.
then we gotta get some hard figures.
That's why I was saying that.
And then we need, on top of that, we need somebody that is going to be able to answer. I don't wanna go down with this like we did before with that goof Gil. Look at what, this building right here is what it's cost us with that. If we're gonna have an engineer, we're gonna have three engineers. I don't want three engineers fighting against each other.
No.
We need
We
one
need
head
one of them in
engineer.
charge.
Exactly, and that we can hold his, you know what, to the fire.
Because we're gonna get a lot of finger pointing if we have three separate people.
Exactly.
There's gotta be, there can be a group, but there's gotta be one person in charge that takes and delivers the report. So if there is a problem, we have one person to go to, instead of the guy said, no, it's Pat's fault.
Right.
It's
And
Joe's
that's-
fault, you know?
And that's where I come from.
So I think we gotta establish that.
I'm gonna make my comment right now as a member. And that's all I was saying. I appreciate the work that you did, John.
Yeah.
You did a lot of work on that. But I just want to make sure that all of our facts and everything, all of our figures that we have are all accurate.
For sure.
And who's going to be accountable? If we're using 3 different firms, you can't have someone that's going to be the head guy. You're going to have a project manager that's going to take the lead on the entire project, period. But we're still going to have, no matter what we're doing, actual figures. And who is going to be liable if things go awry? I think that's what you were saying too.
Right, right.
So, that's my comment. Tom?
I'm just reiterating that, and when and where do we start putting that together?
We started today.
No.
Today we started. right
No,
now.
all you did so far is made a mess.
We started so you guys
I'm
can look
not,
at
I'm
it.
not criticizing what you have done. What I'm saying is, there's nobody there that's gonna accept any responsibility of what you put together. Zero.
It comes out of this authority. We're meeting again in 3 weeks so that we can start refining some of this stuff. We're the authority, we're in charge of the budget, we put it together.
No, we're not in charge of the budget, it's the
Thank
county
you.
commissioners,
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
right?
No, it says that we are responsible for the expenses and the operation and the lake level and the operation of that. The dam authority does. We go to the commissioners who then.
They tell us yay or nay on the money.
Exactly,
Right. So
exactly.
if anybody puts a budget together, it has to be this dam authority.
Yeah, but if it isn't approved by the commissioners,
We just want to do it the right way so that.
we've kind
you
of
know,
been
Exactly.
going
Oh, yeah, the budget will
upstream.
have to be.
Right. Right, what we need is,
But in order to get the money from the commissioners, we need hard and fast figures. And like you say, we can take this and chew on it, but what are we chewing on?
I agree with you.
Unless we need a responsible person that gives us a responsible total of what this is going to be.
That's gonna cost us money.
That's right.
Who is that person gonna be?
That's what I said.
Where,
We gotta,
where does that money come from?
You
So
know.
now, do we go to the board and say, we need $10,000 to get started?
we have no money to hire these people, right?
Well, the first thing
John?
we have to do is reach out to them and find out. It doesn't
Are
cost-
they available?
Yeah,
And who are they?
yeah. Meeting adjourned.
Do we have to have a motion on that?
Nope.
Thanks, guys.